and welcome to week 5 of our second year of our journey through the Word. We continue to walk with Isaiah as he declares that God is judge and that he is a lawgiver and that he is the king who will come and save them. I love the constant promise of the words of Isaiah as he promises them that the Redeemer will come, and he promises them that they will be brought back into the land. At that time, he says, the desert will bloom, all eyes will see the glory of Yahweh. And he says, the eyes of the blind will be opened, the deaf will hear, the lame will walk, Messiah will come. We know that these words are multidimensional. We know that the first time that Jesus came and walked this earth, that the eyes of the Gentiles were opened. But it tells us that there was a partial blinding of the Jews that took place. But we also know that it speaks of the time when Jesus will come again, the second time that he comes, and he will bring it at that time an opening of the eyes of the Jews, and they will be grafted back in. It's about this time that once again we hear some words as Isaiah speaks to us that are also multidimensional. I want you to listen to the words of Isaiah in Isaiah 35, verses 8 through 10. A highway will be there, a roadway, and it will be called the Highway of Holiness. The unclean will not travel on it, but it will be for him who walks that way. And fools will not wander on it. No lions will be there, nor will any vicious beast go up on it. These will not be found there, but the redeemed will walk there, and the ransomed of Yahweh will return and come with joyful shouting to Zion, with everlasting joy upon their heads, and they will find gladness and joy, and sorrow and sighing will flee away. Once again, these words of Isaiah are three-dimensional. The first dimension of this prophetic word is that God is saying he's going to bring them back from their captivity in Babylon. But we also know that these words have a second dimension. And the second dimension speaks of the first coming of Christ. I want you to listen to Isaiah 40 and verse 3 as it talks about this roadway. It says, a voice is calling, clear the way for Yahweh in the wilderness. So why do I put those words with the first coming of Christ? Well, as we read in Matthew 3, verses 1 through 3, we hear the words of John the Baptist. Listen to the words. Now in those days, John the Baptist came, preaching in the wilderness of Judea, saying, repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. For this is the one referred to by Isaiah the prophet when he said, the voice of one crying in the wilderness, make ready the way of the Lord, make his paths straight. And so we see that these words were spoken by John the Baptist because he was clearing the way, he was bringing the way. And we hear Jesus's words, and it's Jesus's words himself that give us a clearer understanding of John's mission. In John 14:6, it's recorded when Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but through me. Jesus's life, death, and resurrection has given us access and entrance into the very presence of God. But there are some instructions and some details that Isaiah gives us concerning walking on this highway of holiness. I want you to hear Isaiah's words as he speaks to us in Isaiah 40, verses 3 through 4. A voice is calling, clear the way for Yahweh in the wilderness. Make smooth in the desert a highway for our God. Let every valley be lifted up, and every mountain and hill made low. And let the rough ground become a plain, and the rugged terrain a broad valley. So why would we look at these verses in regards to ourselves if Jesus is the highway? I want you to hear the words in Psalm 84, verse 5. It says, how blessed is the man whose strength is in you, in whose heart are the highways to Zion. Where is the highway and the highways to the presence of God found? It's found in a man's heart. And so if we are going to understand how to come into the presence of God and walk on this highway of holiness that the unclean can't walk on, how do we walk this way? I believe that Isaiah's words give us these instructions. He says, make smooth in the desert a highway for our God. The highway that's referred to here is a major thoroughfare that the redeemed are to walk on, that they are to make their way back to the land of promise. You see, God has always been in the highway making business. We saw God when he was bringing the children of Israel to the land that he promised them. He brought them through the Red Sea. How did he do that? By making a highway. They had to walk it, but God made the highway, but it was for them to walk on. Also, we see this when God brought them to the River Jordan. He did the same thing. He made a highway for them to walk on. But once again, they had to walk that highway. So if the highway to Zion is in our heart, the first thing we need to recognize is that truly Jesus is the way. But what with the words of Isaiah 40 that we just read when it says, clear the way? What does that have to do with us? As we look at these words, I think it'll become more clear. When it says clear the way, the word clear in Hebrew is panah. Panah comes from the word face. Panim is face, and panah is the root of that word. And it literally means to turn. It means to take my head and to turn my face towards something. The reason they've translated it as clear the way is because as they would make a road, they would have to turn the soil. But as we have read in Psalm 84:5, that the highways are in my heart and I am to turn my heart. This same word is used in Isaiah 45:22 when it says, turn to me and be saved, all the ends of the earth, for I am God and there is no other. If we're going to walk on this highway, we have to turn our face and set it towards that road to walk on it. And then it says, make smooth a highway. As we look at this word, yashar, it means to make straight. It's used three ways. It means to go in a straight direction. It means to make level and free from obstacles and to look straight ahead. It talks about Jesus, how he had set his face as a flint. And this is basically what it's telling us to do, to look at that way and set our face straight on that road, not to go and waver in other directions, but to keep our focus on that road. I believe that all three of these nuances are relevant to us, that we make our way and our focus solely on the road. And it also says, let every valley be lifted up. There are several words in Hebrew used to designate various kinds of valleys that are found in the land of Israel. This word that's used, gay, is an elongated flat-bottom depression, such as was used for the Valley of Hinnom. And the term also came to be used figuratively of an obstacle that needed to be overcome. I believe this word is also for us. What are the obstacles that keep us from being fixed on that road, that highway of holiness? It goes on to say, and let every mountain and hill be made low. As we look at the word mountain and how this word is used, it's a symbol of power. What are the things that we put our faith in, that we feel have the power to deliver us, that aren't God? And we trust them more than we trust the power of God. Often we look at our own abilities and think we have the ability to get us out of our woes and our troubles, rather than looking at the power of God. And then it talks about hills, not just mountains, but the hills. As we look in scripture, this word hills is used most often of the high places, the places of idolatrous worship. And I believe that God is calling, as he was calling them, to rid themselves of anything that they put higher than God, anything that they trusted more than God. And he says, let the rough ground become a plain. As we look at these words, rough ground, two words in English, it's only one word in Hebrew, akav. And this word akav is the very root word of the word Yaakov, which is the name Jacob. And this word came to mean a crooked foot track. It also means deceitful. And so God is calling us to look at our footprints. If someone were to follow your footprints, would they find a straight path? And that's what it's saying. Let these crooked footpaths become a straight path. The word there, a plain, means level, upright, to go in a straight direction, no longer wandering on bypaths. Do we find ourselves literally getting off track from time to time? If we're going to walk the highway of holiness, and we're going to walk this path that God has given us, the life of Christ, God says, I don't want you walking bypaths. I want you to walk according to his life. Goes on to say, and the rugged terrain, let it become a broad valley. The word rugged terrain, rakes, literally means to bind or to be bound up. And therefore, it means that which impedes our walk or makes impossible. God says, I don't want you to walk on terrain that's rugged and difficult. I want you to walk on the broad plain. This broad plain, it's also the term that's used for the Valley of Megiddo. Those of you who have been to Israel, you can see the picture, because we know this valley, not like the other word, this valley is a broad valley. And the Valley of Megiddo is a very, very broad valley. We'll talk more about the Valley of Megiddo in the days to come. And it says that when this kind of walk is walked, and we are walking on the King's highway, when we are walking the walk of holiness and the life of Christ, then it says the glory of Yahweh will be revealed, and all flesh will see it together. And I believe that this brings us to that third dimension, that the eyes of the Jews will be opened, and they will see the same road, the same way, Jesus, who is the way to the Father, as the Gentiles have been shown. Paul, the Apostle Paul, he said it this way in Acts 24, verse 14. He said, but this I admit to you, that according to the way, which they call a sect, I do serve the God of our Father, believing everything that is in accordance with the law and that is written in the prophets. Someday we will see the third dimension of Isaiah's words and the very words of Jesus when he said, no one comes to the Father but through me. The Gentiles don't come one way and the Jews another. The Jews' eyes will be opened and they will come to the Father through the same way, the way, Jesus Christ. I trust that you will examine your hearts this week and see if you need to have some road work done or some road repairs in your life. May the word this week strengthen you and cause your steps to be firm on the highway of holiness. See you again next week.